This is the presentation for Chapter 4 in the Rothermel textbook. Chapter 4 covers the resource-based view of the firm and strategic activity systems. These are two of the core models in strategic management. They explore the sources of distinctiveness that a company can offer to its customers and the systems they use to bring those attributes to the market. We'll start with the resource-based view. When making buying decisions, customers have choices. Once they have decided to buy a product or service, they scan available options. The strategic question then is, why do customers choose to do business with one firm over available alternatives? What makes one option stand out from the others? A firm's objective is to be that most compelling option. Achieving this goal involves the pursuit of distinctiveness as well as the ability to deliver on it. We study distinctiveness through the resource-based view, which looks inside a firm to understand the attributes that cause customers to do business with it rather than its competitors. Let's begin with the terminology of the resource-based view. Basic inputs are the factors of production used by every firm in an industry. This is as simple as stating that engineering firms will have engineers on staff, manufacturing firms will own factories, and universities will employ instructors. Strengths are basic inputs that a firm believes it excels at. For instance, a firm with salespeople who have deep and enduring relationships with key customers could credibly assert that its account reps are a strength. Of course, firms have weaknesses as well when they perform a basic input poorly. The reason that firms can't rely on their strengths for superior competitive performance is that it's possible for multiple firms to claim the same strengths. For instance, consider a group of competing engineering firms. Each will try to hire excellent engineers from good schools with solid work experience. If they all succeed, having a staff of excellent engineers becomes a characteristic of every firm in that market, making it a competitive wash. While strengths are always nice to have, they may not be a competitive differentiator. So we have to move beyond strengths. This is where we rely on the tenets of the resource-based view. I'll introduce three key terms here and offer more details on each of them in the next few slides. Competitively valuable resources, or CVRs, are the building blocks of distinctiveness. CVRs are any characteristic of a firm that directly contributes to its meaningful separation from its direct competitors. Capabilities are systems of activities designed to bring those pockets of excellence to the marketplace. If CVRs are the building blocks, capabilities are how those building blocks are organized and managed to deliver benefits to customers. Last, core competencies are functionally no different than capabilities. They are still systems of activities, but they are the one or two capabilities that are most important to customers and their buying decisions. The next several slides add detail to these definitions. To repeat, competitively valuable resources are elements of a business that are its building blocks of distinctiveness. Any attribute that improves the effectiveness or efficiency of a firm's activities or adds value to its products and services is a potential CVR. But these attributes go beyond mere strengths. While strengths may be claimed based on the impressions or opinions of a firm's managers, determining something to be a CVR requires passing objective tests. This is the VRIO framework. A CVR must be valuable, rare, costly to imitate, and organized. A CVR could be valuable in many different ways. A long-term relationship with an important customer, a patent, a well-placed retail location, or a repeatable innovation process all might be valuable. The key to meeting this standard is that the attribute delivers meaningful benefits in some way to the firm's separation from its direct competitors. Rare means that not all competitors have the attribute. While rare is not the same as unique, it means that the ownership of the attribute is uncommon enough to make a difference in the marketplace. A resource that is rare is also non-substitutable, just as it was defined in the 5 forces model. Non-substitutable means that other firms don't have different competitive attributes that serve the same purpose, undermining the value of the attribute to the firm. Take the soft drink industry as an example of rare. Both Coke and Pepsi have brand names that are far more well known than the brand names of other competitors. So while a powerful brand name is not unique in the soft drink industry, since there are two of them, and there isn't a good substitute for a brand name in that industry, the Coke and Pepsi brand names are rare enough to make a difference. A CVR is also costly to imitate. This means that other firms cannot easily replicate the attribute. Factors that contribute to this include unique historical conditions, causal ambiguity, and social complexity, as described in the textbook. Finally, the firm must be organized to capture the value of the resource. This means that the firm has the appropriate structures, processes, and systems in place to fully exploit the potential of that attribute. Without proper organization, even valuable, rare, and costly to imitate resources will not result in a competitive advantage. In all, these criteria help managers distinguish between strengths or basic inputs that a firm is good at from CVRs or attributes that are the sources of distinctiveness. A couple of additional points about CVRs. First, CVRs come in different forms. Tangible CVRs are things that can be touched, like a highly automated or efficient factory or a prime piece of real estate. Intangible resources are the ownership of captured ideas or symbols. These include things protected by patents, copyrights, or trademarks. Last, probably the most important CVRs are institutional, or resources based on the skills, competencies, relationships, and behaviors of the people working at a firm. Second, CVRs can differ from firm to firm, even within an industry. While it's obvious that each firm is unique, this point helps us to remember that there are multiple paths firms can take to be successful. For example, consider two car dealerships located near one another, both selling similar cars. One dealership offers high-touch service with lots of personal attention, a consultative approach to sales, and premium service operations. The other dealership, alternatively, could focus on lowering its cost structure by offering only transactional sales support and basic services, which would lead to better pricing. Both of these dealerships could be successful, even though they take very different approaches to selling cars because of their appeal to different customer segments. Third, most CVRs cannot be bought or sold. CVRs, especially intangible and institutional resources, are typically so ingrained in the fabric of a firm that trying to extract them is near impossible. What do you think would happen to Chick-fil-A's reputation in the marketplace if it was taken over by a larger firm? In trying to buy a company that owns something that clears all of the VRIO hurdles can actually lead to the destruction of those attributes. Last, because companies and the markets in which they operate are continually evolving, CVRs are dynamic. Managers cannot assume that a CVR, once created, will always be the source of distinctiveness in the marketplace. Firms must continually invest in, upgrade, and leverage their CVRs and be on the lookout for new ones to develop. CVRs are important sources of distinctiveness, but to generate returns from these pockets of excellence, they must be brought to market. This is where capabilities and core competencies come into play. These are systems of activities consisting of CVRs along with other basic inputs, strengths, and even weaknesses within the organization, designed and implemented by managers to have an impact on the market. In other words, strategic capabilities are the result of integrating activities that may be spread out among various departments within a firm. Imagine a firm that is just average at sourcing and distribution, pretty good at manufacturing, but has distinctive retail locations and R&D activities. If the five functions do not work well together, they would not optimize performance, and the retail locations and R&D function would not produce the value that they could. If, however, they are integrated into a system, with each of the five contributing to the performance of the whole, their strategic power increases rapidly. Creating and maintaining these integrated systems is difficult, but the RBV is strangely silent on how to build them. It provides the VRIO model for examining competitively valuable resources, but nothing of its like for capabilities. Instead, we'll use strategic activity systems, particularly the value chain, as a means of analyzing these systems of activities. The value chain is covered later in this presentation. Core competencies are similar in structure to capabilities in that they are systems of activities, but they are the one or two of those systems that truly define a company in the marketplace. Starbucks provides an example of the difference between capabilities and core competencies. We all know Starbucks is a place where you can get a drink and a snack in a pleasant in-store environment. It is a reliable place to go to visit with friends or to work on a laptop. What's less known is that the firm is really good at accessing and developing real estate. It is one of the best companies at finding the right locations for its stores. In our terms, the food and the beverages and the in-store environment are the core competencies because they describe the firm's core presence in the marketplace, while its real estate activities remain at the level of a capability. In some ways, the marketplace influences the firm's core competencies even as the firm consciously tries to shape them through its efforts. Firms evolve over time in response to the things that customers love best about them. One last thing to point out. It takes a lot of work and dedication, not to mention a bit of luck, to create competitively valuable resources, organize them into strategic capabilities, and then have customers recognize them as core competencies. This is not easy to do. So once a firm has achieved those milestones, they are often loath to give them up. Unfortunately for them, markets are always changing. Firms must continually strive to keep their attributes relevant, narrowing any gap that occurs over time between its offerings and the nature of the market. This requires them to invest in and upgrade their CVRs and find new ways to leverage them. If a firm does not close that gap, it creates opportunities for new entrepreneurial companies or existing competitors to capture that business. While the RBV provides a list of criteria for distinguishing between strengths and CVRs, it offers less guidance in specifying capabilities. It simply notes that they must be present for the firm to capitalize on those pockets of excellence. This is where our discussion of strategic activity systems comes in, using the value chain as an easy example. A firm's strategic activity system describes how it has chosen to organize its activities as it strives to deliver great products and services to its customers. Let's start with the basic observation that most firms are organized into groups of some sort, like divisions or departments. Each of those departments is typically specialized, such on a particular function, like finance or marketing or engineering, or perhaps on a specific geographic location. This specialization is helpful to the performance of each area by grouping people with shared assigned activities, common skill sets, and specialized technologies that are aligned with their duties. While the specializations are beneficial to the performance of that specific area, they can create organizational and operational challenges when considering firm-level performance. This is because the most immediate concerns of employees in those specialized groups will all be centered on that particular area of the business, not necessarily the firm as a whole. Naturally, people worry about getting their own job done each day. As such, their minds are typically on the tasks right in front of them rather than the grand ambitions of the overall firm. But customers, on the other hand, experience interactions with the firm as a whole. They don't care how a firm breaks up its operations. They only want great products and services at reasonable prices. In other words, customers only see the output of cross-functional activities in the form of delivered products and services as created by capabilities and core competencies. They don't care what happens in each functional area as long as the result is good. The value chain is useful as a generic description of a strategic activity system. It starts by breaking down a firm into primary and secondary activities. Primary activities are those that are part of the creation and delivery of a firm's products and services. The process starts with inbound logistics, or gathering the raw materials needed to make the product and getting them to the factories, then transforming those raw materials into finished products through operations, shipping the products to clients or distributors through outbound logistics, creating demand for the products through marketing and sales, and finally helping the products retain their value through aftermarket service. Support activities enable those primary activities. Procurement is buying things, including raw materials, but also office supplies, buildings, trucks, and anything else a firm needs. Technology development is both research and development, as well as managing information. Human resources includes hiring, training, developing, compensating, and even firing people. Last, firm infrastructure is kind of a catch-all term for overhead, including top management as well as accounting, finance, legal, and other support activities. More details on these descriptions are available in the text. As you can see, this is a highly generalized model for breaking down a firm's activities. No firm actually looks like this chain. Worry less about the particular graphic and more about the overall idea of deconstructing a firm into its parts. We can generalize the value chain by concentrating on three key terms. Discrete activities break a firm down into specific activities. The idea is to separate activities that require different skill sets and different physical resources in order to fully understand the strengths and weaknesses of that particular activity. So functions like production, marketing, accounting, etc. are all viewed independently to see how they're performing. The same logic can be applied to dig deeper into any one of those functional areas. So after separating marketing from other functions, managers can drill down on the activities within that area, such as promotions, pricing, distribution, and so on, to see how each of those sub-functions is doing. Notice that benchmarking fits right in here. Linkages can be defined as the impact of the performance of one discrete activity on the performance of another. For instance, a firm with an excellent HR department that is able to hire very good people to design and manufacture high-quality products is likely to find marketing to be an easier task. That is, the human resources function is its own discrete activity, but strong performance in it would make other parts of the firm more successful. Drivers are elements of a firm that significantly influence overall strategic decisions. Consider them to be the subset of discrete activities and linkages that are most important to delivering product and services and appropriate combinations of price and quality to customers. Drivers reflect pre-existing structural conditions of a firm or how past actions and investments have shaped the firm into its present condition and are important to determining its future. Once we focus on the terms rather than the value chain picture, we can freely apply them to how firms really work. We'll use IKEA, the furniture retailer, as an example. The elements in the lighter colored circles are related to discrete activities, or the things that a firm must get done in order to implement its strategies. The lines between them indicate linkages, or how the performance of one activity might influence another. Last, the darker colored circles indicate drivers, or the elements at the foundations of the firm's market presence. Now we need to make a connection between the resource-based view of the firm and strategic activity systems. They are two sides to the same coin. The RBV focuses on identifying the sources of distinctiveness that a firm has or should develop. This model helps managers pinpoint how they can create separation from competitors and create value for customers. For purposes of this class, it is important to understand this hierarchy of terms, particularly how each is distinct from one another. Strategic activity systems focus on how firms organize their activities to bring those elements of distinctiveness to the market by breaking a firm down into discrete activities, building linkages between them, and understanding drivers, or those existing factors that influence strategic decisions and impact the overall firm performance. Going through these mechanics will help managers get a view on the overall intention of value configurations, allowing sources of distinctiveness to flourish in the marketplace. Let's go back to IKEA to illustrate these interactions. First, we discuss competitively valuable resources as pockets of excellence, or building blocks of distinctiveness. Breaking a firm down into discrete activities should help managers identify where those CVRs reside, along with basic inputs or strengths. Using the IKEA graphic here, notice that necessary activities, such as shipping or store maintenance, are not even listed on the graphic. These would be basic inputs, things that must be done and hopefully done well, but are not going to make a meaningful impact on the firm's performance. Perhaps others are strengths, such as year-round stocking or high-traffic store layouts. But some of these circles will be regarded as competitively valuable resources, or those sources of distinctiveness, such as knockdown packaging and in-house design, things that other firms don't do. Second, we define capabilities as systems of activities that deliver benefits to customers. Again, linkages and drivers describe how managers construct and utilize the firm as a system. So the managerial ability to design and sustain linkages among discrete activities while understanding and managing underlying drivers could be argued to be the most important skill a firm's top managers can have. Here, capabilities are indicated by groups of activities, and the one or two of those capabilities that help define the company in the marketplace or its core competencies are likely to have a significant influence on the firm's overall performance. In this case, that would be the modular furniture design and the low manufacturing costs, which lead to low prices. In this graphic, there's also an example of a strategic capability that is not a core competency. Limited customer service is a big deal at IKEA because reducing the number of people that work at the stores allows it to offer lower prices. But successfully running a retail location with little in-store personnel requires a lot of setup beforehand. Customers must feel comfortable with the information they are receiving about the products from displays rather than asking questions, and must be confident that they can assemble the items themselves. But limited customer service isn't a driving reason for customers to visit IKEA. Using our terms, this is a capability, a system of activities that delivers customer benefits through lower prices, but not a core competency directly connected to a customer's view of the firm. Repeating the key point once again, the resource-based view is an analytical tool for identifying sources of distinctiveness or how a firm can stand out to its customers. Strategic activity systems analyze how a firm creates systems to deliver a firm's competitively valuable resources to the market through strategic capabilities and core competencies. Together, they explain why some companies continually stand out to customers and why others do not. To summarize, the key to the RBV is appropriately utilizing its terminology to distinguish between basic inputs, strengths and weaknesses, competitively valuable resources, strategic capabilities, and core competencies. This allows you to focus in on the things that make firms distinctive in their marketplace. Strategic activity systems build on the ideas of discrete activities, linkages, and drivers with the intention of figuring out how a firm delivers competitively valuable resources to the marketplace. What's important is that a firm's strategic activity systems efficiently and effectively transform those basic inputs into great products and services for its customers. And this concludes the presentation.